Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time once again for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. Wakanda Forever! Okay, so the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is finally here, and honestly, as someone who did not know a lot about Black Panther prior to the announcement of this film, I was completely blown away by this film. Straight to the point, if you like epic movies, if you like superhero movies, if you like heist movies, or if you just like fun movies in general, then you need to see this movie in theaters like right now. And before we get into the review, this episode is brought to you by Stardust. Stardust is a free app that you can download onto your phone, link is in the description down below, and it's the easiest way to post reactions to movies and TV shows and trailers on social media. Whenever I go see a new movie, I always post my immediate reaction on this app, so that's the best way to see my first thoughts on the film before I even review it. And it's not just new stuff, because there are literally thousands of things that you can react to on this app. And if you download the app, you can post your own reactions, watch other reactors, and if you tag me in one of your reactions, you might get a chance to appear in my next video. Stay tuned until the end of this episode to see if your reaction made it into the review. Now, let's get into the details of Black Panther! Black Panther was directed by Coogler and stars Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, who is a superhero known as the Black Panther. In the movie, T'Challa is about to be crowned king of Wakanda, which is a secret, shielded, and advancing city in Africa. But of course, there are a lot of hardships and responsibilities when becoming king, along with also being a full-time superhero, which I guess kind of goes along with being royalty? I don't know. And things become even more challenging when a man named Herrick, played by Michael B. Jordan, comes along and challenges to take his place on the throne. And I don't want to go further into spoilers because if I didn't already say it, you should go see this movie. First and foremost, I was so impressed with the world that they created in this film. I was just completely in love with the combination of the technological advances and all of Wakanda's citizens dressed in very traditional African garb. It was, for lack of a better word, really mesmerizing. I just love that this film was so rich with African culture, and it was just so badass to see them incorporate it into their normal wear as well as their armor. It was just so cool to look at. And just like Wonder Woman, it was also so cool to see female warriors again. These women were just so fearless and so badass, and I loved how they just fought for the honor of their king. It was just so awesome. And just like most of the Marvel films, the cinematography was also gorgeous. There's a lot of vibrant colors, especially when we get to see the world of Wakanda. There's always going to be fight scenes and battle scenes in these Marvel films, and thankfully in this film, they didn't feel like they went on for too long. They were shot really well, they were creative, they were so much fun to watch, and I also noticed halfway through one of the battle scenes that they were kind of using a long take, and those usually don't work too well, but I was really impressed by the way they did it in this film. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa was absolutely wonderful, and we'll get to the villain in a minute, but first I have to point out that my two favorite characters in this film were T'Challa's sister Shuri and then also Okoye, the bodyguard. Shuri was just a lot of fun. She's like the younger, more mischievous version of Alfred. She's the one that comes up with Black Panther's gadgets and costumes and has a lot of knowledge of medicine and technology. I mean, what can't she do? Yeah, I don't know, maybe she was a little too perfect, I don't know. And she's also very much a sister to T'Challa because she's of course very protective of him, but she also likes to mess with him a lot. Mad respect. And Okoye was also just so much fun to watch. She was such a badass and she was never afraid to jump into a fight if needed. If anything, being a warrior seemed like her vice almost. Like, her day would not be complete until she did something of duty. And then of course we have Michael B. Jordan as the villain, Killmonger. When he was first introduced to the film, he already had this very unique look to him, and I kept asking myself, where have I seen this guy? Because I'll be honest, I looked it up later and I haven't really seen a lot of films that he's been in, but halfway through the movie it just kind of hit me. Oh my god, he was Johnny Storm in Fan 4 Stick! Holy crap, well look where he is now! You know what, man? Good for you! Good for you making it into another Marvel movie, and not just a bad one or even a good one. You made it into a fantastic one. Ha, see what I did there? This version of Killmonger has, by far, become one of the best villains that I have seen in this franchise. He kind of started off as this sort of blasé character. We don't know a whole lot about him, and maybe he's just helping out our main villain, but then it turns out, oh no. Oh no! Not only does he have an interesting and dark backstory, it also turns out that he is somehow linked with T'Challa and Wakanda and their ancestors, and oh my god, twist! Which is of course where a lot of the real challenges and conflicts start to come in. Killmonger is one of my personal favorite type of villains because even though he comes off as evil and we don't want him to win and we get so frustrated with what he does, we still on some level sympathize with him and where he's coming from and why he feels like he has to do what he's doing. He also really challenges our hero and so many other characters in the movie to rethink what they've known to be true up until this point. As you may or may not know, there are a lot of underlying themes in this movie, and that's definitely nothing new, especially in cinema, but also especially in superhero films. But if you also watch a lot of superhero films, then there really is no denying that a lot of times those kind of themes and messages can come off a bit preachy. Movies like this with a lot of fighting can very easily throw in that anti-war message and blatantly tell it to us because superheroes do fight for the good of mankind. But I also find that that kind of comes off as flat normally because it's just a superhero and a villain fighting each other, so throw that in there. The audience will get it. That, however, was not the case in this film. It's like, no, it's a little more complicated than that. Something I really noticed about T'Challa and so many other characters in this film is that they are constantly fighting with themselves as to what is the right thing to do. Do they fight to protect? Do they fight with honor? Do they fight for duty? And what really makes this movie stand out to me is that you don't always see them talking about this with each other. You can just see it in their inner monologues and on their faces when they're trying to make the right decision. And there is just something so powerful in seeing that. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but one of the messages that they have in this film is that we should as a society be focusing on what brings us closer together. We should not be putting up barriers and separating each other. And something that also really got me right here is that they touch on how we should not be focusing on what our ancestors did to define us. Instead, we should be focusing on ourselves and what we can do now for mankind, for our future. And yes, even though the things that I just mentioned were blatantly said in the movie, it still works for these characters, and it works for these conflicts, and it works for this world, and it works given the history that's presented to the audience. It just felt really organic. I didn't feel like I was being lectured. I felt like I was watching an inspiring story that will hopefully help us encourage each other to just come together as a society one day. It's also very relevant to a lot of things that are going on in this country and going on in the world right now. And I really hope I haven't given away too much already, but one more thing I have to say is that, again, I just love films like this because the hero actually learns some lessons about himself and about what he thought was true up until this point, and he sees that there needs to be change. Oh, I just love it so much. The movie, of course, isn't without its faults though, and yes, this is a little picky. There's a scene about 2/3 of the way through the film where we're kinda led to believe that a main character is dead, and really all I could think when this happened was, wow, yeah, you really got me there, movie. I really confidently thought he was dead. Guys, come on, I know you're not gonna do that to your main character. I just feel like they could have been a little more creative with this, I guess. You know, instead of killing him, why wasn't he just exiled or severely punished? There's also this MacGuffin in the film, and it's implied that it's been completely destroyed, and I was really surprised that at the end of the movie, they didn't go back to it at all. They didn't say, oh, that's alright, we'll do okay without it, or even imply that maybe it's not the end after all. Like, what? Also, the first third of the film can be really exposition-y until the action finally gets started. Also, in the beginning of the movie, there are a couple of fight scenes that are in the dark and it's really hard to see what's going on. Like, what happened? Was that the lighting department's day off or something? Also, after we meet Killmonger, there is a long period of time where we don't even go back to him, which kind of made me think that maybe he wasn't going to be that important to this movie. And while I admit I do enjoy these, this movie does of course have a lot of Marvel movie tropes, like the characters that mess with each other and the out of nowhere humor. But also, thankfully, like most of these films, the comedy wasn't too out of place. It was more of an icebreaker to help remind us that this is a really fun film. Other than that, I had a blast with this movie. I love the visuals, I love the characters and the action, and of course I love that this movie has a message that really sticks with you. If I haven't said it enough yet, go see this movie. So those are my thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Black Panther, and now here's this Stardust winner and their thoughts on the film.
It's now one of my new favorite MCU films next to Thor Ragnarok. I just love the world building around Black Panther and the mixture of different cultures, and Michael B. Jordan was a really good villain next to Loki. And even though the story's a little bit predictable, but it makes up for it for the effects and the costume design.
So now I want to know, what did you guys think of Black Panther? Did you absolutely love it? Were there any other problems you had with the film? By chance, did you grow up reading Black Panther? And do you think that this movie did the comic books justice? Also, let me know, who was your favorite character in the movie? What was your favorite scene? What was your favorite joke? And finally, are there any other movies or TV shows or even trailers coming out that you want me to do a review of? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And also be sure to hit the little bell button down there to get notified when new stuff comes out, because I make new videos every week! Bye, Adorkable Buddies! I'll see you soon!